Welcome, everyone. I'm thrilled to be with you today. Before we begin, I'd like to start with just a moment of silence to prepare ourselves for the short talk and the writing ahead. So if you would like to join me, just gently close your eyes or relax them, please. Take a couple of deep breaths in and out through the nostrils, and we'll just sit for 1 minute together, please. And after your next exhalation, gently open your eyes and come into the room in soft focus. Welcome. So let me give you a sense of what this practice is about, a little bit about who I am, and then we're going to be moving through two Writing to Awaken practices. Each one will be 25 minutes long. 15 minutes into each practice, you'll have the opportunity to join a breakout room if you would like to. Otherwise, just keep on writing. And also during the writing itself, I'll be giving you deepening prompts. So every 5 minutes, I'll chime in with a deepening prompt. If you're in a good flow, you can ignore the prompt. You'll be able to access them later. If you find yourself stuck or at a pause place, you may want to use those prompts to take you deeper into the question at hand. So I've been a professional writer for the past 40 years. About 20 years ago, I started teaching because I realized that I had learned something in all of those days and weeks and years of toiling at the page. And what I had learned had to do with what happens when we tell the truth about our deep experience. What I realized, and Marianne, we can pull up that first card if you don't mind. What I realized is not only do we not tell the truth as much as we think that we do, but when we do, Marianne, can you pull up that card? Here we go. Here we go. I realize that when you tell the truth, your story changes. We're all telling stories at all times in our lives. We're narrating our own experience. It's how we, as human beings, as Homo narrans, it's how we navigate through a dangerous world. We create stories to understand what's going on, what we can anticipate, what has happened to us in the past. These become the stories that we use to describe ourselves and our experience to us. But when you start to tell the truth, the deeper truth, your story changes. And when your story changes, your life is necessarily transformed because your interpretation, your story about what's happening, shifts. And when that does, we see differently. So when you understand, we can drop the card now. When you come to understand that you are a story-making animal, and that's what we do, but that you are not the story, you're the storyteller, that's a quantum shift in your awareness. You come to recognize that because you create stories, you can also change them. So we don't need to be prisoners of our own narratives. We can recognize them for what they are. We can use them when the stories that are operative in our lives we can use as long as they are growthful for us, as long as they're inspiring and helpful for us. And when they're not, we can change them. We don't have to be trapped or imprisoned by our own narratives. Now, the thing about telling the truth, as most of you know, is that it sounds a lot easier than it actually is. I read a piece of research that said that the average person tells 10 lies, at least 10 lies a day. whether those lies are euphemisms, whether it's protecting other people's feelings, or it is practicing what psychologists call reputation management. How am I looking? What are they thinking about me? What do I want from this situation? We cut and nip and tuck our truth as we go along through any given day. That again is not necessarily a problem as long as we are aware of the times when we're not being honest. So what Writing to Awaken does is it takes us deeper into what is our genuine, authentic experience. When we cut through the reputation management and we cut through what we want to believe is true, we come to a more baseline, direct experience of our actual lives, our actual feelings, our actual beliefs, and that creates insight. So the purpose of this practice is to take us to insight. That's how writing becomes a mindfulness practice, how it becomes a spiritual practice, as it's been used for 2,500 years since the time of the ancient Stoics, who first came up with this idea of deep journaling, this introspective journaling that helps us to step outside our experience so that we're not trapped inside our own thoughts and our own beliefs and our own narratives. So this is a form of deep journaling that is intended to bring insight and also to challenge our shibboleths, our sacred cows, and the authorized version of things that we tell ourselves on a daily basis. So in the same way that you don't go to a therapist to BS them or to put up some kind of a facade or create an impression, we want to come to the truth, to the page as nakedly as possible. So I want to encourage you when you're doing this practice today to be as shameless, take risks, and challenge your own authorized version of things. The purpose of this is not just to repeat the same old, same old. We want to get underneath the conventional way of seeing and ask ourselves what's truly going on. And what you find when you do this is that writing does become a kind of a liberation. I've worked with thousands of students over the years, and I can't tell you how many times I've seen the simple act of asking deep questions on the page to be transformative in people's lives, and deeply healing, and often
That's
quite challenging. So I want to tell you, if you find yourself getting bored or listless when you're doing the writing, often it's because you're not challenging yourself. So I want to challenge you today, as much as you are willing to go deep into these questions, and to if you feel afraid, if you feel cautious or worried, to go toward the fear, go toward the worry, go beyond the caution, and find out what's really going on there. The truth is that we have a witness awareness in us that is behind the thinking mind. And that witness awareness has a lot more courage and a lot more wisdom than we're aware of very often. So it's the witness that we tap into when we're doing Writing to Awaken, and that's why it does become a spiritual, even a metaphysical kind of practice. So could we go to the next card, please, Marianne? So Rainer Maria Rilke, the great Czech poet and essayist, wrote, "I want to unfold. I don't want to stay folded anywhere because where I am folded, there I am a lie." So this is going to be the theme of our first writing. We can pull up the next card, please, Marianne. I'd like you now, please, to take 25 minutes to write about where in your life you feel folded, dishonest, or inauthentic. Where do you feel stuck or hidden, secretive, or trapped? We're going to take 25 minutes to do that, please. 15 minutes in, as I said, you're welcome to join a breakout room if you would like to. Otherwise, just keep on writing, and I'll be giving you deepening prompts throughout this practice. 25 minutes, please. 20 more minutes, please. What do you not allow yourself to admit and why? If you have any questions, type them into the chat. 20 more minutes, please. 15 more minutes, please. Where do you feel at odds with yourself today? Be specific. 15 more minutes. 10 more minutes, please. Are you dishonest to protect other people? If so, when and why? The breakout rooms are now open if you would like to join one. Otherwise, just keep on writing. 10 more minutes. 5 more minutes, please. One more minute, please. Let's start to finish up. And let's come back together as a group, please. So finish up in the breakout rooms and we can have a little conversation. I'd love to know how this went for you. Do you have any questions about this prompt or about the writing to awaken practice itself? Now would be a great time to chime in.
I think people are still coming out of their breakout rooms because it gives them a minute once I close the rooms, so they're still coming back.
Okay. By the way, folks, for those of you who are back with us already, just to tell you that rereading your writing afterward is an important part of this process. And unless you reread what you've written, you're not going to see where you may be covering up, where you're not going deep enough. You may miss the insights that are there. So rereading is an important part of the Writing to Awaken practice. It's a little bit like, a little bit like getting dressed and then not looking in the mirror. So we want to look in the mirror and see what we notice there in order to take it deeper. And what generally happens is that other questions will arise in you when you reread what you've done, and that you can use those prompts for your continuing practice. So, Marianne, do we have any questions?
I saw there was a question about joining the breakout room, which I missed. So apologies about that. And otherwise, let's see if there's any questions. You can write your questions in the chat.
Was anyone resistant to doing this practice? Did a part of you pull back and say, I'm not inauthentic, I'm not folded, I don't feel trapped or dishonest? That often happens. And that's a good thing because then we get to challenge ourselves. And it's often when we have the greatest resistance, of course, that there is material there that wants to be explored.
There's a
Um,
lovely one here from Roz. Do we become more honest and authentic as we get older?
Not necessarily, Roz. It can go quite the opposite direction. I know a lot of folks who sort of pull back into fear and pull back into feelings of being irrelevant and invisible and less inspired than they were earlier in their lives. So I think sometimes we become less authentic as we get older if we don't do a practice of self-inquiry, a practice of awakening, whatever that means for you. I think there is the great potential for becoming more authentic as we get older because we have the opportunity to care less about what other people think. We're not generally competing for jobs in the same way we were or for mates in the same way we were in the past. So there is certainly the opening, the opportunity to become more authentic as we age, provided we continue asking ourselves deep questions. Otherwise, it's all too easy to stagnate, get trapped in your very narrow lane, and wondering what happened to your passion, what happened to your creativity. I hear this all the time from folks in middle and older age. I used to be so interested in things. I used to be so engaged. What happened? And it's often because we stopped telling ourselves the truth about what isn't working for us, about what actually inspires us. And so it's important to continue as seekers. It's on the path. It's important to continue asking ourselves questions and to challenge our Shabbalas, our sacred cows, as I was saying earlier, the authorized version of things and the authorized version of ourselves. Often we turn around at 60 and we're not at all the same person, nor do we want the same things as we did 30 years before, but we haven't updated our psychological biography, so to speak. So it's important to keep updating through asking questions.
Hmm.
um, we've got a couple of questions. Am I dishonest to protect other people? Um, that's from Helen. And Joan is saying, is it okay to be dishonest to protect others when we may not be able to cope with their reaction to the truth?
It's a case. Yes, thank you. Was that one person?
Two people.
Yes, no,
Um,
that's an important question because, of course, telling the truth to ourselves in this practice doesn't mean we go blurting it out to everybody around us, regardless of timing or propriety. There are times, obviously, when not being fully honest to protect another person's feelings, or because, as you said, you're not prepared for the reaction. There are times when that is appropriate. As long as we know as long as we know why we're doing it and when we're doing it, so that we're not being driven by, we're not deceiving ourselves. We're not being driven by our own dishonesty. We know we're using skillful means, you could say, to decide what is appropriate to share and what isn't appropriate to share with whom at what time. So there are certainly moments when it's kind and okay to not be 100% candid. The important piece here is to know that we're doing it, to be aware of our own motivations, to be aware of when we're covering up, because often we're not aware that we're doing it, and that's the problem. That's when the tail is wagging the dog, and we don't even know our lies or our dishonesties or our half truths, our euphemisms are driving us rather than the other way around.
Joe, I think you raised your hand.
Hi, yes. Can you hear me okay?
I can, yes.
Yeah. Oh, hi. Thanks, Mark.
Sure.
So I have a question. I didn't know how to formulate it and put it in the chat. So I journal quite regularly, and sometimes it can turn into like a sort of like quite a deep self-reflection piece. But I want to almost have an ability to journal regularly with some kind of prompts. But it kind of gets a bit lost, and I don't really know. Should I just sit down and do a deep reflective piece, or should I journal regularly? I don't really know how to. I don't know. I don't know what formula to use.
Yeah, that's a great question, Joe. I find that starting with a question is most helpful. So how even how am I today? Where does it hurt? What do I want? What am I not saying? There are an unlimited number of questions we can ask ourselves, but I do find that starting with a question begins the inquiry process on the page, so that we're not just sort of writing here and there and not going to any depth. I do have a book, Writing to Awaken, that has a year's worth of prompts in it, which are they're deep, very useful prompts. It's in paperback, doesn't cost a lot of money, and that comes out of a lot of years of my doing this practice myself. So you might find that book helpful.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
And
Okay,
there's
we'll
one
take one
from,
more and then we'll go into our
yeah,
next.
from Karin. I welcomed the opportunity and was aware that I was already in knowing about what would come up, which sounds like the awareness you were speaking about, Mark.
Yeah, yeah. It's so true, Karin. So often we know we're doing it. We're aware of when we're not being honest, where we're covering up, and yet we continue to do it, either because we haven't pushed ourselves or we haven't found out what the resistance is to opening up. So I hope that, Karin, you were able to go more deeply into that insight, the reasons behind the covering up, the fears, the resistance. What is your greatest fear? Were you to allow yourself to sort of drop that
Mm.
deception or that way of being? There are always more questions, folks. That's what I want to leave you with today, is that life is constantly presenting us with questions. If we listen and we explore them, it's a major path of self-discovery and ultimately freedom. So thank you, Karin. All right, Marianne, I think we need to move into our next writing. I want to respect people's time.
Next slide.
Yes, next slide, please. Here we go. I'd like you now, please, to take 25 minutes to write about what you would do if you were free. What would you do if you were free? And part of this question necessarily is, how do you define freedom? What does freedom mean to you? We'll take 25 minutes to do that. Please, 15 minutes in, you're welcome to join the breakout room. Otherwise, just keep on writing. 25 minutes. 20 more minutes, please. How do you resist your own freedom? Be specific. 20 minutes. "15 minutes, please. How might your life improve if you could be more free? 15 more minutes. 10 more minutes, please. Does freedom scare you? And if so, why? The breakout rooms are now open if you'd like to connect with other folks. Otherwise, just keep on writing. 10 more minutes. 5 more minutes, please. One more minute, please. Let's start to finish up, please. We'll give folks a second to come back in. Actually, we may as well start, and folks will join us as they can. Do you have any questions? Anyone come up against any resistance to this prompt? What do you think freedom means? Because of course you could say that this is a trick question. It could be argued that we're already free, but don't claim our own freedom. Don't acknowledge the ways that we are much freer than we give ourselves credit for. So I'd love to hear from you. Does anyone have anything he or she would like to bring up? Any insights come up around this question of freedom?
People are coming back from the breakout rooms now. So if you've got any questions around freedom, you can post them in the chat.
Is anyone confused by the term? You know, freedom can feel like such a vast term, and it can mean so many different things, obviously, to each of us. So how was this for you exploring the question of freedom? Did anyone have any insights or questions they'd like to share? I see oh, here's Helen. Hi, Helen.
Hello. Thank you for this. I really enjoyed all of it, but this piece I thought was really helpful for me. And it really was all about what other people think. For me, freedom was just not caring what others think. And I just thought, oh gosh, I just really would like to not care what they think, but that's such a hard thing to do. And I think it's just sort of a practice of sitting with caring what they think and feeling that I care what they think. And just so I'd love
And
your advice on, I'm sure that's quite common.
it couldn't be more common, Helen. You know, one thing to do, a good place to start with that is to get specific. You know, first of all, who do you care about most? You know, whose opinion do you value the most, or whose judgment do you fear the most? And what sorts of judgments are you most afraid of? You know, what do you accuse yourself of in your own mind, and then fear that other people will pick up on in you? Get specific. Getting specific really is an important part of this practice, because the mind will give us these generalizations. I'm afraid of what people think. Yes, of course, that's true, but it doesn't give you any real information. When are you most afraid? Of whom are you most afraid? Why are you afraid? What do you imagine will happen if you are judged? These are the kinds of prompts that will take you deeper into the issue and really bring you some insight. Yeah. Thanks a lot. Hey, Joan.
Joan, you've raised your hand.
Yeah, I started off from thinking that I'm free in so many ways. When we think of conflict in the world, we're all sitting in warm homes and we've all had dinner. And so for most people in a conflict situation, we are totally free. So I went back to freedom for me is your perception of what it is almost. So we were talking about Viktor Frankl and him being completely incarcerated, but having a mind that was free and that was not incarcerated. So it's such an interesting, such a small word with so much meaning, So for me, it boiled down to almost like having a clear mind and living in the present moment would be my idea of freedom, and not worrying about the future and what's happened in the past and what other people are thinking about me and all the 101 tabs that you've got going on in your head at any one time. If I could close all those tabs down and just live right here, right now, then that for me would be freedom.
Yes, absolutely. And you make an important point that it's possible to be free in the most oppressive environment like Frankel, and to be unfree in the most liberated privileged life. We can walk around and be prisoners of our own lives. What Frankl said is that he called it the last of the human freedoms, and it's the ability to choose our response to what happens to us. I'm actually teaching a course on man's search for meaning that
Oh,
starts next week, and it's all about claiming the freedom that we already have, which is an innate power to choose our responses. So this is a deep and important topic, Joan. We could do a whole week on this question of freedom. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Joan. So we've got some messages as well in the chat. So Karin says that the job I'm applying for is both a potential burden, yet also a bridge to freedom. So I think this is like a reflection on where she's currently at.
So I'd love that, Karin. Explore what do you mean it's a potential burden? What's burdensome about it? What do you fear about the responsibilities or the demands of that job? And in what ways do you imagine that it's a path of freedom? Just go a little deeper. Ask yourself, what do you mean when you say that that is going to be a burden, but that it can also be a path of freedom? And you're right, Karin. It's a paradox. Almost everything is a paradox. So that the thing you long for can also be the thing that scares you the most, as most everybody knows. So go a little deeper, Karin. Ask yourself why do you fear that this is going to be a burden? That would be a great place to start.
Mm. Then there's also from Joe, my thinking around what freedom is really changed as I wrote. I thought that was really interesting.
Well, I'd love to know in what way it changed. And not to get too personal, but how did it evolve? Do you mean you started off with one idea of freedom, and as you wrote about it, you realized that wasn't freedom? How did it evolve for you? But that's a great thanks for bringing that up, Joe, because that's the beauty of doing this writing practice is we go deeper and deeper beyond our own stories about things, our own definitions. We question our terms, we question our assumptions, and that's of course the beauty of doing any kind of self-inquiry and personal growth work. It liberates us. It liberates us to see things through different eyes by questioning our stories. Yeah. Thank you, Joe.
Beautiful. Thanks. And this leads us nicely to Ishita's question.
Oh, I'm sorry. We have Fiona wanting to ask.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Sorry. Do you want to go to the question?
Yes, please. So Ishita says, what does one journal about once they no longer seek and find that they are home and have learned to just be, just now, always?
Well, that's a rare and rarefied state where there is nothing more to ask, there's nothing more to discover, where one feels completely at ease and free. I've never personally known anyone in that state, so my hat is off to you. What I would say is, are there not still questions about living? Questions about interactions, questions about relationship, questions about ambiguity, because life is so ambiguous and contradictory. We are masses of contradictions. The most enlightened among us are contradictory. I've worked with a lot of great spiritual teachers. They all have their stuff. They all have their contradictions. So I dare say there are contradictions in your experience. What are they? What's interesting about them? What can they teach you? That would be the place to start.
Thank you. And I think we have, one more question. Fiona, please go ahead.
Oh, shall I go? Yeah. So it was quite easy for me to choose my freedom in the place I'm at the moment. It's to have more financial freedom. I'm retired and I have a skill that I was hoping to develop more as a retired person, but I have many grandchildren and children and their partners, and I tend to put other people first. And I've been procrastinating. So it was really good for me to write down. And when you came in with the prompt about resist, what is holding me back?
Mhm.
from doing this. And so many things came up were not new to me. They're things that I've thought about a lot as that those dialogues you have in your head all the time. And why haven't you done this, Fiona? Yes, but there was this that came up, and it's really helped me to because there are things I've shared with friends. I have some very good friends, and I talk to them about it, and they're very encouraging. But it sort of means making a shift in my life, which is actually quite comfortable, but I would like to have a bit more money coming in to be able to be more generous, to give more money to charities, to suddenly, not feel guilty when I splash out on something. It's not a lot more, it's not, I'm asking to have a whole lot more, but just to make things a little more comfortable. And so I found that I found myself thinking about my mum who lived till 98. And I'm aware that there are quite a few beliefs that I kept on from her. One of them was to sort of, I was one of I am one of five children, and she tended to sort of tap us down. You don't sort of speak up too much. When you're a family of five, you keep everything evenly. And so I often think of Marianne Williamson's quote that is often accredited to Nelson Mandela. And I often think, yes, I need to live this, shine my light. And because I know I have potential with this work, but I'm just slacking on my website. And so all that to say that what I realize is that although I've spoken to friends, although it goes over in my head, I know what the resistance is, I know what I need to do, I know what I want from it. But by putting it down on paper and getting those prompts, it feels suddenly more organized, and I can go back and read it. And the fact that I've taken this time to write, I like the idea of writing, but I've never sort of continued the momentum. I'll write something and then several weeks go by, and but this was it just feels so much more organized,
Yes,
and
yes.
perhaps
That's the
more manageable.
it is that, and that, Fiona, excuse me, that's really the purpose of it is when you take what's inside and put it outside,
Yeah,
objectifying it, it becomes so much clearer. And
yeah.
even 15 minutes a day of doing this practice, I really see it as spiritual and psychological hygiene, like brushing your teeth. It's
Meditating.
extraordinary. It's
Yeah,
extraordinary the mess that you can clean up in 15 minutes. Something is caught, you have something in your brain that's catching you. You sit down, you say, "What is this?" You question it on the page, and suddenly this awareness in you is that's bigger than the worried little fearful mind, sees it and is able to articulate it, and it is freeing. It's enormously freeing.
and I like what you say about going deeper and asking more questions.
Yes, yes.
Is that I wouldn't have thought of. Okay, what am I questioning here? What do I need to ask myself here? But would you say it's better
Thank
to do
you.
this just in the morning or in the evening, or it doesn't matter when?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you write by hand or on a computer or on your telephone. It doesn't matter when you do it. What matters is that you show up. Keep
Yeah.
showing up. I do recommend, if possible, creating some kind of a routine with it. So if you like to write in the morning, do it in the morning. If you like to write in the
Yeah.
evening, do it then. Simply because the psyche kind of has a way of preparing and organizing itself for that and
Mm.
counting on it. But don't be strict about it. Just show up as often as you can and keep asking questions.
Okay, great. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.
Oh,
Judy,
thank you. Right, Mark, we would love you to tell us a little bit more about the courses you're offering and how people can find out about them.
Sure. Well, we can pull up that last slide if you don't mind, Marianne. I wrote down my
Sure.
website for folks. A couple of ways. I teach online classes. I'm teaching a class on Viktor Frankl that begins next week on Man's Search for Meaning. We're going to be doing a close reading of Man's Search for Meaning together. I'll be giving a talk every week. We'll do writing connected to the reading. That begins next Tuesday. If you would like to have a regular writing practice, I have something called the Seekers Forum, It's the Writing to Awaken community through the Seekers Forum, where we do a weekly guided writing session, much like what we've done today, on topics that change every couple of months, topics of importance to seekers and folks who are on a path of self-development. So if you check out my website or go to theseekersforum.com, you'll find a lot more info about what I'm up to. I'm also teaching in London on June the 7th. And I look forward to, I always love coming to the UK. The workshops are always great in London. So I hope I see you there.